How we doing, guys? Welcome to DT's Daily. So today we're going to be talking about last night's Champions League matches. We're going to be speaking about tonight's matches and whether Liverpool can progress in the Champions League. And also we're going to be speaking about Arsenal because their game against Manchester City has been cancelled due to some of Arsenal's players and staff having to go into self-quarantine because of the coronavirus.
I represent my fucking self.
How we doing, guys? Welcome to DT's Daily. That's right.
So there's only one place that we can really start this, and that was the news breaking late last night. So late that I actually didn't even know until this morning when I woke up. But Arsenal's game this evening against Manchester City has been cancelled because numerous Arsenal players and 4 staff members have gone into self-quarantine. Now, we saw the news break yesterday about the Olympiakos owner, and he's also connected to Nottingham Forest and everything else, but he's actually been tested positive for coronavirus. And who did we play less than 2 weeks ago? Olympiakos. So any player or staff member that was in close proximity to this guy, met him, etc., has to go into self-quarantine for a 14-day period. Now, I was looking at this initially and I was thinking, 14 days? Surely if we have to have players and staff in quarantine for, 14 days, we can't play Premier League matches past this one. We can't play Brighton at the weekend and whatnot. But looking at it, it's 14 days from the moment of contact. So far, it's been 13 days, which means the Man City game gets cancelled. But at the moment, the game against Brighton on Saturday should be going ahead. Arsenal have already said that they're looking forward to the players coming back into work on Friday. But it does start to raise some questions. You're looking at, if we're players going into self-quarantine over the last 14 days and whatnot because of the contact with Olympiakos, then does that mean that anyone who's been in contact with Arsenal players over the last 2 weeks has to go into a 14-day period as well? What are the risks? What are the implications? What are the procedures? What actually happens? I don't think anybody really knows. And I think that, we need some clarity on this. We need a little bit of, some kind of organisation to it all, because everything just seems all over the place. We're getting games, played behind closed doors and leagues suspended in Italy. And now this is the first case in England in terms of, a game being affected. And it's just strange. The Olympiakos owner, Marinakis, he was at the Nottingham Forest game against Millwall on Friday. And there's been images of him, with fans taking photos and everything else. So what happens now? Do Nottingham Forest and Millwall players, do they have to go into self-quarantine for the next 14 days? Does that affect fixtures in the Championship? There's so much that needs to be spoke about, and there's so much that needs to be done, because this is just ripping everywhere apart at the moment, and it's getting worse and worse and worse. And there's no news in terms of who the players are. There's no news of who the staff are. All we know is that players and staff have got to go into self-quarantine for 14 days. So it'd be interesting to see whether any of the players that get tested actually come back as positive. Because if that happens, that's when things get really serious. Because if an Arsenal player has contracted coronavirus, then everybody associated and has been in close proximity and around that person will have to be tested, will have to go into self-quarantine. And it's not great at all, is it? So, Arsenal's game against Manchester City is cancelled. I'm actually gutted. I was looking forward to going up to Manchester. I think it would have been a good time to play Manchester City, given the fact that they just lost to Manchester United. Looks like, Kevin De Bruyne wasn't going to play. So, now will go up to Manchester City, and no doubt they'll be in fine form, and they will have all their main players back, including De Bruyne. So who knows when that game's going to be played. And you've got to think of the fans as well. Myself, I was driving up there, so it's pretty straightforward and pretty simple. You just don't drive up there. But there was a lot of people that have booked, coaches, trains, even some fans I know were flying to Manchester. What happens to them now? What happens with that? We all know that with the tickets, you can reuse them, when the game gets arranged again. But strange. I don't know what's going to happen. We will have to wait and see. So going into the Champions League matches last night, of course, the main one in there was RB Leipzig against Tottenham, and Tottenham go crashing out of the Champions League, humiliated 3-0 on the night, 4-0 on aggregate, and they just did not put up a fight in any way, shape or form. Over the two legs, Leipzig were the better side, and they deservedly go through. And you're going to have to question some of the goalkeeping in last night's game. The first two goals for Leipzig, and Hugo Lloris, he won't want to see them again, especially the first one. Both goals scored by Sabitzer, and that first one, like I said, spaghetti hands. Should be getting that out. And the second one, beaten at the near post with a header, and he should be saving that. Forsberg gets the third goal in the 87th minute, first touch of the game, and Spurs look an absolute shambles, to be honest with you. And I know that they're missing the likes of Son and Kane and whatnot, but this is part of football. Everybody's missing players. Everybody's got to deal with certain situations. But the Jose Mourinho honeymoon is well and truly over. And there's a lot of Spurs fans not happy this morning. And you only have to go onto, social media and everything else to see a lot of fans really not happy. And a lot of fans questioning why they brought in Jose Mourinho and why they sacked Pochettino. I said at the time, I think it was the wrong thing to do. I don't think that they were, in the right mind to go and sack Pochettino. I think that he should have been given more time, given everything that he's done. I know they were going through a bit of a bad patch and whatnot, but they literally just pushed. And Daniel Levy got rid of him, their most successful manager in the modern era, and brought in Jose Mourinho. And I'll tell you something, if you want to get rid of Jose now, you're going to have to pay a lot of money. Never mind. The other game in the Champions League, and I'll tell you something, I missed one hell of a game here. I wish I watched this one. It was Valencia 3, Atalanta 4. And it was 8-4 to Atalanta on aggregate. Brilliant game. I have seen the highlights, and it was just end-to-end crazy football, especially for a Champions League match. But yeah, it is what it is. And Atlanta and Leipzig are the first teams to go through to the quarterfinals of the Champions League. Now, we're having a look at tonight's fixtures. And of course, the big one in there will be Liverpool against Atletico Madrid. Of course, Madrid are winning 1-0 from the first leg. Liverpool never got an away goal. But Liverpool do have a formidable home record in the Champions League. And we already know the fans will make it very, very hostile. I think Atletico Madrid would have probably been hoping that this game would be played behind closed doors, because then they really would have a chance of going through with no fans in there. But on a Champions League night at Anfield, there's something about it. And no doubt the coach ride into the stadium will be a bit of a wake up for Atletico, although they've probably seen some crazy stuff in their times when they go to the likes of Real and Barcelona, etc. But it's it's unique, that's for sure. And they're going to have to deal with that hostility, because I think that in the first 5 to 10 minutes, if you can quieten down the crowd, then it becomes a little bit easier. But like I said, Champions League nights at Anfield are a bit of a strange one, and they always seem to produce the goods. So Atletico, they're going to want a goal. They're going to want to get that away goal, and it makes things very, very difficult for Liverpool then. But we will wait and see. The last game of the night is Paris Saint-Germain against Borussia Dortmund. And of course, Borussia Dortmund go into this game 2-1 up. PSG do have the away goal. But this game is going to be a bit of a strange one because it is being played behind closed doors. I've been to PSG myself, and I tell you something, the atmosphere in there is absolutely superb. And it's going to be strange when you think of two teams that are noted for their atmosphere and their fans. They will have nobody in the stadium. What happens? I don't know. Does that play into Borussia Dortmund's hands? Given the fact that there's going to be no fans in there, they do take that advantage. PSG, there are some concerns over Kylian Mbappe because he seems to have had a throat infection over the last couple of days. And I believe that they were even testing for coronavirus just in case and taking precautionary measures and whatnot. So if he's missing, it's going to be an uphill struggle for PSG, that's for sure. Very, very interesting game. I will be keeping an eye on that one tonight just to see what happens. So there we go. That is it for today's news. Spurs go crashing out. Champions League games tonight. And of course, the Arsenal game cancelled due to self-quarantine because of the coronavirus. So yeah, listen, we're going to be doing a live feed tonight because there's no Arsenal game. So I'm going to be watching that Liverpool and Atletico game. So tune in for that one around about 7:45 tonight to watch that one alongside me. And then, yeah, we'll see whether the Arsenal game is on this weekend against Brighton. And if it is, there will be previews and player ratings. So until tomorrow with my daily news, I'll see you lot soon. I'm out of here.